Alright, here we are with our first podcast, so let's get started. Mr. Vipul Saini, Senior Manager of the Innovation Lab of Kotak Mahindra Bank, is here with us today. With over a decade of expertise in traditional and digital marketing, product development, and company strategy across a wide range of sectors and countries. Let's get started with an insightful session with him.
Hello, sir. Thank you so much for taking our time for this, and welcome to our very first podcast. So,
Thank you. Good to be here.
welcome, sir. Pleasure. And so, keeping in mind, the conventional rules of a podcast, let's take the discussion ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So, the topic that we'll be discussing upon will be, how to bridge the gap between the investors and the founders, right? So, as an investor, as an entrepreneur, if you're looking out for investments, so you must be knowing that investors, bombard you with a lot of questions related to, your business, your idea, your product, okay, your strategies, or your future plans, even, right? And as a founder, you should be, ready and well prepared with a very convincing and, comprehensible answer to, so that you're able to build that relationship of trust with the investor. So my question to you is, what, according to you, are the most important fundraising questions or considerations that a founder should keep in mind? Over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's a good question to start the discussion with, and a very important one as well. I would suggest that it actually differs for entrepreneurs at a different stage when they're looking at raising the money. So I would start with the first. I mean, if it's an entrepreneur who's looking to raise seed fund, I would start from that. Then I'll probably touch upon what an entrepreneur should do when they're looking at a mid-level valuation, and then improving the funding for that angle, and then we'll talk about raising larger capital from the larger VCs globally. So
Sure.
in the first stage, I would suggest that what a investor is looking at the stage of when you are just you've created a product, you have a service, you're looking at promoting it, and you're looking at raising money to basically capitalize your ability to market your product or sell it to a larger amount of customers, right? Deliver more in terms of what your capabilities are. At that particular stage, the investor is predominantly looking at understanding how good do you know your product or your particular service.
Exactly.
They're looking at your in-depth knowledge of the product service that you have created. They're
Right.
looking at your understanding of what is the market that's created around that particular segment, around that product and that service, and they're looking at your information base in terms of have you made the effort of doing the market mapping, have you done competitive mapping, do you know what's happening at a local level, do you know what's happening at a global level, have you understood the trends, do you know who your customers are, have you validated your product in that initial capacity. And very importantly, they're also looking at who is the team, and what is the background of the founders, because
Exactly.
majority of the time what happens is that business is the sort of domain that changes rapidly. There are a lot of external factors that you cannot control as an entrepreneur. You can't even control it as a large business.
Right.
So most of the VCs and investors at an early stage are looking at entrepreneurs and founders who have the capability, the knack of showcasing good business sense. So let's say
Right.
if they have to pivot within the industry, can they do that? Can't they do that? How capable are they? Have they learned anything from their previous background? Are they people who believe in the vision? Do they come with the pedigree of creating something on their own beforehand, or if they're new investor, or if they're new entrepreneurs, right?
Right.
So that becomes very critical for them to understand and analyze. What I would also suggest entrepreneurs and founders to look at this point of time is when you're looking at talking to an investor, while they would be looking at these particular domains, I would also suggest that you also look at a valuable partner that can be part of your journey. See, it's not only about raising the money, it's also about
Hmm.
finding the partner that might be able to open up more doors for you. That would be
Right.
from the point of view of additional technologies coming in. It could be a point of view of additional market skills that they might be able to bring, open up new geographies for you, right? Give you ideas, connect you to people. So there's a lot of things that the investors will also get on board for you. So please
Right.
look at it as a relationship rather than a one-time raising fund. Because if you're serious about your business, it has to be a relationship that you need to nurture and that your investor needs to nurture. So that's critically the component of the early stage fundraising sort of a capacity. At the second level, where let's say you already have a team built, you have somebody who's given you seed money, you've raised money from your friends and family, or you might even be generating revenue on your own accord, right? At that stage, when you're looking at a serious investor who would come in at a pre-series A or a series A, what they're looking at predominantly is that do you really understand your business well? And that starts from small factors like what is a valuation? Do you understand what is a valuation of your own organization? What have you done to be able to reach come to that particular stage in terms of
Exactly.
showcasing that valuation. Most of the time it's actually disheartening that people don't understand that understanding the value of your own organization, product and service is very critical. That's a first yardstick that anybody will judge you on. The second would be what are the opportunities that you have got so far in your journey, and how well have you utilized those opportunities? Because again, they're trying to assess the business skill set of the founder, they're trying to assess what are the capabilities of the team, and that again becomes very important. So till around series A, it's not only about the product and service. While that is critical to be able to understand the segment that you are in, the potential of the solution that you've created, it is also very critical to be able to understand how good you are as a person, as a businessman, and how good is your team to be able to navigate the rougher tides in the ecosystem.
Right.
When it comes to the final stage, like I would say, probably let's say series B and above, you would have gone through a lot of successful fundraising sort of scenarios yourself. But again, what most of the founders forget at that stage is that you're again looking at a viable partner who might be able to open up newer geographies for you. So while traditionally you might look within India to be able to do that, and this is with the understanding that this goes out, majority of the target audience for this would be Indian founders and entrepreneurs. So I would suggest that when you're looking at raising fund at that point of time, please look internationally as well. Look at markets where you're getting good business from or are a potential business. Being able to raise investment from those markets are a considerable benefit and boon for you. Again, a lot of people don't look at it from an international perspective. Things have gotten a lot better. There were certain regulations in place which made it difficult earlier on to be able to raise investment from international investors, but things have changed quite a bit, right? There are government entities and organizations that are helping you. There are multiple countries that will reach out to you with benefits. You have the German accelerator, the Canada, Israel, UK, you name it. I mean, most of the countries today have a favorable attitude towards Indian startups. So I would suggest use those. I mean, those are beneficial to be able to do that. And again, one side note: while you're looking at raising investment, please also remember today there are a lot of grants and initiatives and competitions that you can take part. There are international grants available. There are grants available at a central government level. There are grants available at a state government level. There's a lot of support that's provided through competitions, visibility wise, money wise, support wise. So those are additional things that you should always keep looking at to be able to not only scale your business and generate revenue, but also market yourself in the right group of people. And again,
Exactly.
networking is important. So
And even the fundraising process, I mean, it isn't a straightforward process, I'd say. Like, it's more of a complicated and, a delicate process, I would say, right? It's more of like when you learn a new skill, so you should learn what not to do, right?
yeah.
You should learn what mistakes you should avoid, correct? So I would request you to, throw some light on the mistakes that the founder should avoid during their investment rounds, so that their application is not rejected. So,
So interesting. So I would suggest that again, this is a very serious part of the business. You need this level of input. You need this level of integration to be able to do well in the business.
hmm,
So I would suggest the founders should take it as a very serious activity. Sadly, I have seen a lot of entrepreneurs and founders who are very confident about their business and they know what they're doing on a day-to-day business, and they start approaching the founders without any preparation. Please do not do that. I mean, while you know your craft, you know your business really well, having a dedicated discussion with an investor is a completely different ballgame, right? And
exactly.
there is preparation required for that. In any activity that you do, if you're not able to understand the right value that you bring to the table, it will always negate you in a way that will harm your credibility and your
Exactly.
organization's credibility. And one thing to remember is that the ecosystem in India is a very close-knit ecosystem, right? While you might see each investor as an individual, please remember that most of them, I would say all of them, but most of them are very predominantly connected to each other. So if you're pitching to one and if it is doing well or if it is doing bad, either ways, the word spreads. So first impressions are very important, right? Every discussion that you're having with an investor, has to be considered as a critical component of your discussion and your growth. And preparation for that is required. Creating the right pitch deck, making sure that the right points are validated, preparing a little, with the help of your teammates, or different organization accelerators or incubators that you might be a part of. Reach out to these people, understand, cross question, get somebody to play the devil's advocate. Be prepared, for difficult questions as well. They really help you. And it's a process, right? So every
Right.
time you have a discussion, you get better at it. But the idea is to be able to, look at the better conversions. We are trying to identify how do you reduce that level of, turnaround. So that could really help.
Yeah. And I believe that, however, everyone, every investor, every founder or consultant, they have different approaches and different opinions
Yeah.
about every idea, right? In this, a world of pitch decks. So it's all about like how well you know your product, okay? How well you can present, how well
Exactly, exactly.
you know your USP of how well you know your USP. So
Yeah.
in the end, I would just request you, to just give your wise suggestions and advices to the founders, who are looking out for their initial investments and are at their initial stages of this journey.
Yeah. So again, I would say that the ecosystem has evolved, considerably from when the whole startup wave started off in the early 2010s, right? And today you have a lot of people who are ready to provide support. Like I mentioned, there are government grants,
Hmm.
there are competitions, there are incubators, accelerators, there are open innovation programs. There are larger MNCs and corporates who are helping out and reaching out, to be able to give opportunities to people to do basic POCs in place.
Right.
I would say please do not forget about these opportunities. They are a great feather to have in your cap, even before you look at start talking to an investor. If you have a product that's ready, and if you have the opportunity to be able to take part in these competitions, apply for some of these grants, please do that, because it adds better credibility to what you're trying to say. See, it's a simple thing, right? When you're selling a product online, and if it's a famous product, right, it's a little easier for you to sell the product because the brand is known. The same
Yes.
scenario here, right? So if you're trying to build a brand for yourself, co-branding is a great opportunity, a great way to do it. Now, co-branding, like I mentioned, could be done with the help of central government, international opportunities, competitions, grants, state governments, and even other brands, other bigger brands, right? Like for that Kotak Bank, we have an innovation program, we, that they brought to the table. So again, I mean, I know it's a little difficult ask at the initial stage, because founders, are looking at raising investment and they're looking at business opportunities. So, this is one trade-off that they do. But please do consider, the other, avenues that you can, use it for. And that's why again the grants become really interesting, because the grants don't ask for equity in return.
Right.
Your POC capabilities do not ask for, equity and ESOPs in return. Similarly, competitions, will be able to create that marketing opportunity for you, but not get those equities in return. So those are other ways in terms of collaborating and creating that way for your startup and your organization. So I would suggest alternative ways, and thinking outside the box definitely helps in this scenario.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much for such an insightful session for our audience. And
You're
looking
welcome.
forward to this concern of, bridging the gap between the investors and founders, Payomatix has come up with, another networking opportunity in the name of Founder Investor Networking Q4 this November in the capital city itself. And we would love to host you, and your insights would be really helpful for all the attendees there.
Thank you so much. I would love to be a part of it. And again, like I said, in this case and in this scenario, please, I mean, to all the people listening, networking is key. If you're not networking at an early stage, it will become a problem. And I've seen that, with continuously scout for startups that can add value to what we're doing currently. And we are also trying to see, how can we improve, the process and the user experience for our customers. We're looking at what can we do from a technology point of view, what can we do from a business point of view. Similarly, today 99% of the organizations do have that opportunity. So please do look out for those flavors, and you will realize that most of the times these people itself introduce you to relevant people who can invest in your organization. So I would suggest that the founders today should open up a little bit, not restrict your flow to a traditional model of looking at initial investment, because these are again really helpful. And the other advantage is, and again, if people can probably if they have to take one thing away from this, session is, please remember that your ESOPs or your equity within the organization are a very valuable, component of your organization. The value of that is created by the founder and the entrepreneur themselves. So please do not lavishly share them across.
Hmm.
Reserve them and use it for getting the right partner on board, right? This also
Exactly.
creates value, when you're looking at, getting initial round of funding, and you're looking at second stage and third stage, because these are questions that are asked by somebody who will come in at a later stage for investment, saying that, why did you share, this level of equity with the next person, or with the next investor? What was the value that they bring to some of the really good startups today that have scaled up and raised 500 million plus rounds? I have worked with the founders at an early stage where, it became difficult for them to even raise initial capital. I mean, they were great, they were fantastic people, but networking is a key part of the component in this ecosystem. So please use this option, and I feel what Paymatrix is doing is wonderful in that regards. So I would suggest, people to use that as an opportunity, take advantage of that particular fact, and network as much as possible.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time for this. It was really great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so
Great.
much.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Get the opportunity to grow and build your network with us alongside a cocktail dinner. Founder Investor Networking Q4 event will be held on the 16th of November from 7 p.m. onwards at Crown Plaza, Mayur Vihar, New Delhi. Register today and book your seats with us.